have a clicker.
Mr. Mayor, we are live.
So today is Wednesday, July 7th, 2021. The time is 5:21 p.m. and I am calling to order the Baldwin Park City Council special virtual meeting. City Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Daniel Damian.
So I'll make a motion to excuse Councilmember Daniel Damian and Councilmember Monica Garcia. Can I get a second? Any objections? No. Continue, City Clerk, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alejandra Andino. And Mayor Emmanuel Estrada.
Here, thank you for that. City Clerk, is there anybody looking to make a public communication?
I believe not, no.
At this moment, we move on to our open session, and it's a policies and procedure presentation by Helen Hernandez and April Rojo.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Here to revisit our renaming policy for the city of Baldwin Park. Just want to recapture a few things. The last time we met, we got some great feedback, so we took that all into account. We reviewed the sources that we had come up with and revised a few things. Some points to note were things that you mentioned were you particularly would like to not include our trees, so we did not include trees at this time, so trees are separate from this policy. This policy would be strictly for streets and facilities. It's very simple and not complicated, which was a request as well. Also, the use of committee input as opposed to strictly city council. And then some form of lottery, which is where we still would like some more feedback or an appointed department to host and coordinate that lottery, which we did not clarify clearly. So today we're just going to highlight a few things. The actual policy was provided to you in your council packets. But if you don't have a copy, we do have extra copies with us. As well as previously, we did not provide you an application, which we have created. So we have copies of the application and the potential policy with us as well. If anyone wants a physical copy of that, we have that. Councilmember Hernandez, both the application and policy, great. We'll get that out to you. So just to highlight again, one more time, we're gonna go with our purpose was just to create a uniform policy. Previously, we don't have a policy in place for this. And renaming our facilities is an honor. We do have a few things that are named after people. For example, the Esther Snyder Community Center is named after our wonderful founders of In-N-Out. So Esther Snyder, which is a wonderful young lady who's no longer with us, but she was an amazing woman who did a lot of foundation work, a lot of community advocacy. So when that facility was named, it was named her during the process of her fundraising, the capital improvement campaign for that particular facility, because there was already a park there. So the committee that built the facility, they named it after her. So it wasn't necessarily strictly a council decision, but it was a community input back in the days. Gosh, the building's like 35 years old now. 88. So so things like that. So, but there wasn't a particular policy. So this policy actually gives us some guidelines that we'll talk about. But the guidelines, just to give you a sense, we do want to establish legacies because it's very important. So Esther Snyder, Harry and Esther are both very integral. When people think of Baldwin Park, they definitely think of In-N-Out, right? So that contributes to the honor and legacy of our community in Baldwin Park. Just as a general overview, the committee and the people that go through the policy portion will be the ones that provide the recommendation for the final approval. So it wouldn't be the first, second approval. It's going to go through a committee and a chair review before it reaches city council. But city council will be the one to appoint which designee, depending on the department or the type of renaming that's going to take place. Something that was recommended in a lot of policies, we looked at college policies, school districts, we looked at park districts and municipalities, and multiple policies did state not to rename anything after a current seated official. So we do have that in our policy here today. And then also the qualifications apply to all types. And we'll go over the qualifications in a few minutes, but everything is nice and short and sweet. And so we'll give you a quick recap of that as to what's in here.
Okay, I'll be going over facilities. Any public building, recreational facility, and park. New facilities shall start the naming process early in the project development. Areas within existing facilities shall include point of entries, rooms, patios, walkways, trails, picnic area, sports field, and they may follow the application process. Commemorative items shall follow application process as well, fountains, lobbies, and physical features. And again, like Helen mentioned, trees are excluded from this policy. Street names shall be unique and distinct. They shouldn't resemble a specific prior street name. They shall be reflective of the community, natural resources, community organization, or named after a person of significant contribution, and that is specified in the application process. Street names in a housing subdivision shall be selected within the same theme throughout, and derogatory names shall not be allowed. Types of significant impact or contributions. Again, this is the qualifications for a proposed name change. Protect natural or cultural resources, provide contribution to the betterment of a specific facility or park, advancement of recreational opportunities associated with positive impact or economic development, person or organization that has a positive impact on lives in Baldwin Park, volunteer service over 10 years or more, and a 1-year waiting period after they're deceased.
Okay, the application. As you can see, the application is extremely simplified now. It's 2 pages, and majority of it falls on the nominator. So the nominator will provide us with which qualification they qualify for. So for example, Esther Snyder, she is deceased. It's been more than 1 year, so obviously she would qualify. She did contribute to the betterment of our community. She helped to advance recreational resources. And again, she also provided assistance with economic development. So she actually kind of is an overachiever, but that's just an example of the type of person we would like to make a significant impact on our community before we propose their name to be nominated. And she, I mean, the 10 years of service is for ideal if it's a volunteer who maybe not the entire community knows, but if someone puts in 10 years of volunteerism at our senior center, serving meals and helping people, that's definitely significant to us and the betterment of our community, especially our seniors who appreciate that. So those are the qualifications. The other side is, the second page shows where to give biographical information. Obviously, we'd love to make sure that they are a Baldwin Park resident. That is not a requirement. Some things to consider were like, for example, in a college district, people didn't live like in the city that the college was in, but they bettered the college. So it was a consideration that some of our volunteers do come to our senior center from other cities. So being a resident wasn't a requirement, although it's probably highly desirable, I guess we would comment on. But if someone is of significant civic involvement in our Rotary Club or our senior club, or if they've been super involved within the activism of our churches here, we want to be able to honor anyone who's made a significant impact in our community, because that would just be the right thing to do for someone who goes above and beyond to help us with the economic depend. An example would be Mr. Bembo, like people that who have done like 25, 30 years of service in our community. If we did a residents only type of application, we would exclude several people in our community. So that wasn't in here. It's just something I wanted to highlight, that that's not in here for obvious other reasons. Does anyone have any questions?
I just want to say those are great points that you put on there. On the facilities, if we name it after an elected official, can we also wait 1 year after they have left office? And also, when we name a facility or a street, make sure there's only one facility or street or whatever it is named after a person. At that piece. But other than that, I like everything I see in here.
So in terms of like one item in the city,
Yes,
Okay.
after a person.
one location.
Just for clarification, Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, sir.
is that an addition to, that would be under section B1C, because here, under C, it says no facility shall be named or renamed after an individual until at least 1 year following the death of such an individual. Are you adding, just for my clarification, I think for staff's clarification, is that to also add Is that to do away with a living elected official or former elected official, that it should be at least 1 year
After they leave office.
after they do? Okay, so they don't have to be dead.
No.
Okay.
No, not
Because right now, that section C speaks to exactly that right now. So there's no clarification. If staff could just clarify that.
Actually, yes, you're correct. So as this reads right now, it does say that no facility or street name until after they've been deceased for 1 year, but we can change it to say
after
shall
they leave
be
office.
after.
least 1 year.
I'm sorry,
1 year after they leave office.
1 year after they leave office. Okay, we can update that and remove the word death and put 1 year after they wait,
Yes. So the death part,
is the part
Included.
that, okay, so change that until 1 year after they've left office or,
yes.
Well, you can leave deceased because we're speaking.
but we still do want a waiting period
Yes.
after deceased.
Yes.
Because we don't want it to be an emotional decision. We're hoping for more of a thoughtful process.
So there may be a member that we feel we should name a facility, and maybe
Seated.
they pass away, but we give a year to make that decision after they're deceased. And when it comes to an elected official leaving office, wait at least a year that they have left office for us to name a facility or a group to.
So we can update to a community member for deceased and then, and any appointed official to wait a 1 year waiting period after they've left office? Is that the direction?
And it,
I agree with that.
So either or, so either
Oh, it's
a
not
community
either.
member, 1 year death, and any elected official that has a 1 year waiting period after they've left office.
no, but it does, we can name it after, just to clarify, we can name a community, facility after a community member. It doesn't mean they have to be deceased. But let's
No.
say somebody,
Not the way it's written right now.
right, so that's why I'm clarifying. That's the.
Okay.
So we can name
Which
it.
would you prefer?
I would like to, so let's say we find out about a community, like in this case, let's give Mr. Jack White an example. He passed away and he had already had a facility named before he passed away. So they were able to name the facility after he left office, he was still alive, and then name the facility.
Oh, okay.
But let's say he would have passed away first, we would have waited a year before we name a facility. So the person can still be alive and name a facility, but not be an elected official necessarily.
So I would
Am I
understand.
making sense?
You are. So what that would, as I understand it, that section of the death would be essentially removed.
So under qualifications, if they've done one of the other items, so it's just an option. If the individual is deceased, it would be 1 year after they've deceased. So it's not an emotional decision. But if they've also just done a significant lasting contribution, so that section C would be the one we would update and remove that criteria, because that doesn't make the finality of it. So we'll update this and we can resubmit it.
Okay.
Yes, and Mayor and council members, we will bring this back as a formal policy to a subsequent city council meeting. And at that point, the city council will have the option to approve and or provide additional direction.
Perfect. And just one last item. As you're going through this document, starting on, under section B, you use, starting on section C, I'm sorry, BC, you have no facility / street. So you just need to remove the street parts under this, because under the title, under section B, it's naming of city facilities. So we just want to be consistent with the documentation that we're doing here.
So we add streets to B.
No, no, you have it right now. You have 3 categories, as I understand it. City facilities,
City streets,
streets,
and then city anemones or
correct.
monument things.
Right now, under starting in under section
Oh.
B, you have, I think it's a typo.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's clear. The other part was, just share with us, what are the steps should the council need to remove a name of a street?
Removing a street?
I could probably jump in on that one. I don't believe we have a formal policy to name or not name or to unname a street. I'd have to refer that to Sam, but I don't believe we have a formal policy. Do we, Sam?
That is correct. There is no formal policy.
So I think it would be the council's discretion to coordinate that element.
I would, excuse me if I may, no, thank you. I would consider adding that to this policy only because again, how do I be sensitive to this? We just want to have a process should the community or residents wish to remove names or whatever the case may be
There is a,
in the future, should that ever be the case. So that way it's,
under,
you can put that under.
there is one that has a, or if you're gonna change a street name, you have to let the businesses and residents know of that city, of that street, city street. So it
What page is
was,
that?
If I could interject as well, we may not need to come up with a specific verse of how we're going to do that. We could probably work with staff and if needed, the city attorney. And when we bring back the policy to the city council in a subsequent meeting to approve, we could have that revision included.
Perfect. I will take your lead on that, Manny.
And I just to add, I
Thank you.
know that it's always easier to name streets when we create new streets versus an existing street. I recall when Fraser Avenue, they wanted to rename it, and we had a lot of community members not happy with that because it's a big process to change with the post office and to change everything. So I remember at that time, there was a lot of people speaking out against changing an existing street. So I would consider, I think it would be easier to name new streets after people rather than changing the name of a street completely. That's just a little more complicated. That's what I recall.
okay, we will take this and revise this and submit it for approval later. Does anyone have any other additional feedback?
Yeah, so I know we were talking about, it says no street slash, or what does it say? No facility slash street. So I think you can keep that there because it's specifying that you can't name a street and a building after the same person,
Yes.
right? So in the streets, it doesn't mention that.
For example, Esther Snyder would no longer qualify to change Baldwin Park Boulevard to Snyder Boulevard. She already has a facility named after her. So it's a facility, not a street.
You could have only one item named after you.
Or like Ramona is named Ramona, so nobody could name a building Ramona after Ramona. She's,
Who was
Named.
Ramona?
Is that a real thing? I don't think that's a
I
real
don't
thing.
know.
I just making stuff up.
It's a women's name, Ramona's.
No, but I mean,
There's like a popular Ramona
I
in
think
every
of
city.
Ramona and Beezus.
and that's exactly what I meant of only naming one facility or street, whatever it is, we're going to name after a person and not have more than one facility or street named after a person. Just,
We can make that more clear in the qualifications.
thank you. Excellent, thank you. I know this has been a lot of work for you guys. You've done a lot of research, so I really appreciate it.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Helen, I'm sorry. Did you mention benches, street and park benches? What are
Yes,
those?
under commemorative items, park benches, right now, we don't have a policy to name those, but we do, informally, we allow people to plant trees throughout our city or in Morgan Park, that we do provide a small plaque. We've had some coaches and local volunteers who have passed.
That
that.
would fall under commemorative items?
We already do have their,
Okay.
maybe like a 5x7 size plaque in our park already.
It's nice.
So benches are part of like the tree procedure.
Yeah, because that's kind of like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
official.
okay, I like that idea. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, are we all done with that presentation?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, we are all done. I also like to thank Helen Hernandez and April Rahal as they walk away. Thank you very much.
Great,
Thank you for
yes.
all your work.
Yeah, thank you to Parks and Recs. Gets, I don't think we see it enough, but Parks and Recs takes care of an
lot.
exponential amount of things. So, a big thank you, of course, to Helen and April and Manny and all of his team.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll definitely share that with the team, and they will be back for the 7 o'clock recognition. So thank you.
Good,
Thank
good.
you.
All right, so I believe at this point, we are ready to recess to closed session. So I believe we'll move on to closed session at this point. There's no other comments regarding the study session. Okay, and then for the record, Councilmember Garcia has joined us, City Clerk, so you can please note that. And then at this point, we will recess to move, I can't even speak today. We will move to closed session. Thank you.